Myths about early childhood bilingualism.
The myth of monolingual brain. It is generally believed that learning two languages simultaneously from birth will make babies unable to differentiate between languages if their parents use both at home. However, studies have shown that children have a high capacity to assimilate more than two languages at the same time. In language development, bilingual children could be expected to lag behind in language development compared to monolingual children, but parties Fred Genesee Rice and others in their research findings provide compelling evidence that learning two languages simultaneously it is not more difficult for the human neurocognitive system to learn one.
Another concern about bilingual children is that they tend to mix words of both languages in sentences, taking the risk of violating grammatical rules. However, research on the issue, such as this of Myers-Scar in 1997, concludes that even when children tend to mix the two languages, they do so according to rules of grammar. Furthermore, the differentiated use of two languages has claimed that when children learn them simultaneously, sometimes they are unable to make a differentiation. Nevertheless, systematic studies have revealed that even very young bilingual children are communicatively very competent. For example, if the parents are bilingual, they use the appropriate language in regards to each of them.
The myth that younger is better. It explains that young second language learners are more probable to get levels of oral proficiency greater than those who begin when older. It is also expected they will acquire a second language quickly and effortlessly. In addition, it is also believed that young children are more effective and efficient as language learners. This belief is based in part on the critical period hypothesis of language learning, according to which the human neurocognitive abilities that support language learning are particularly plastic during early development, usually until 12 or 13 years of age. It is in this period when human language learning is relatively effortless and results in a mastery of language.
This myth exposes that language learning for younger is better. However, research has been made and have served as evidence that young people are not necessarily better. On the contrary, the older may have some advantages. Evaluations and comparisons have been constantly made in students who start learning a second language from childhood and others who begin the same process in more advanced ages. The results show that many times they have the same result and achieve the same levels. This finding attends to the ability of older students to acquire a second language faster than younger students, basically in a school context.
The myth that I want to clarify here is the more time I spend learning the language, the greater it is. I don't agree because experts have demonstrated that simultaneous bilinguals have less exposure to each language as mono-bilingual, but they achieve the same milestone in language and demonstrate the same patterns of development in general. Well, in conclusion, students perform their new language very well at a percentage of 40 to 60 of an exposure to it, according to experts. There is another question that comes out. How can students who get less instruction in their first language in school score the same as native? Two possible answers. Out of school, they include certain exposure to the language, which in turn supports acquisition skills and the transfer a great deal of research on second language such as reading and decoding.
All studies and research prove that the myth of time on task, which states that the more time spent learning the language, the greater one's competence, is false. And there is not a simple correlation between how much exposure children have to a second language in school or in the home and language proficiency. However, below some minimum level of exposure, bilingual children are likely to demonstrate poor competence in a language. But beyond a certain threshold level of exposure, bilingual performance is not enhanced.
The myth of bilingualism and children with developmental disorders and academic challenges. Dual language learning is thought to be unsuitable for children with a variety of challenges because learning two languages or through two languages will worsen their learning difficulties. However, evidence indicates that even children with genetic predispositions for language learning complications, academic challenges that may be due to their social-cultural background, or just poor academic ability, can acquire competence in two languages at the same time within the limits of their impairment. In other words, their learning struggles do not impair their language abilities beyond that seen in monolingual children with the same learning challenges. In conclusion, Fred Genesee states that there is still much to learn about early childhood bilingualism. However, there is sufficient research evidence to dispel many common myths held by parents, educators, and professionals about raising and educating children bilingually. We are the Soulmates. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.